Welcome to Lead Pods, the official leadership podcast from USMB for pastors and church leaders, where our goal is to increase our impact together.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 110 of the USMB Lead Pods. My name is Matt Ayersman, and excited to share another new episode with you this week. So today we're talking with Pastor James Moore. James is the newest district minister in the USMB family. He is a district minister of the Eastern Conference, formerly the North Carolina Conference. And as you will soon find out, James is a very busy man because in addition to being the Eastern Conference district minister, he's also the lead pastor of West End Church in Lenoir, North Carolina. And he also is still an occasional police officer. He served as a police officer for many, many years there in North Carolina, and he still occasionally helps out for special events and things there in the community. So as you can imagine, James stays very busy between those three roles, and as well as his family. I got to meet James in person for the first time a few weeks ago at the USMB convention, and if you've met James, he is just one of the kindest, most authentic people you will ever meet. He is so kind. You just want to give him a hug when you see James. So if you haven't met him before, today's episode will be a good introduction to who he is, what he does as the district minister, and how he's able to do some kind of unique things as both a pastor and a police officer to kind of serve his community there in North Carolina, as well as the larger Eastern District as a whole. So let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor for today, and then we'll get right to my conversation with Pastor James Moore.
MB Foundation provides biblical financial stewardship solutions to the Mennonite Brethren community. We encourage stewardship and generosity through the gathering, management, and distribution of financial resources for Christ and His kingdom. Let us assist you in giving meaning to money. Our services include planned giving, loans, fund management, investment certificates, and stewardship education. With offices in Hillsborough, Kansas, and Fresno, California, we are ready to serve you. Learn more at www.mbfoundation.com or call us today at 1-800-551-1547. MB Foundation is pleased to partner with USMB to bring you this episode of Lead Pods.
All right, my friends, well, today I'm excited to be joined by Pastor James Moore. James is the lead pastor of West End MB Church in Lenoir, North Carolina, and he has kind of recently taken over as one of the district ministers for the Eastern District. So, James, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. Great to spend some time with you today.
Good to be here. Glad to be here and just looking excited and forward to.
Yeah, well, it's great to have some time together. And I was just telling you, so one of the cool things, I don't know very much about you, James, but I know you're a retired police officer. So I think if you're a retired police officer and a pastor, I was just telling you, there's nothing you haven't seen before. You've seen, I'm sure you have all kinds of crazy stories. So,
yes.
Well, first of all, tell us more about you, James. So you're a retired police officer. Tell us more about you, your family, your background, anything that you'd like to share with us.
Okay. Yeah. Like you said, I'm married. We have 4 children, a football team with grandchildren.
Nice.
I worked for the police department for 28 and a half years, retired in 2022. I still kind of do reserve. I'm still kind of a reserve officer. I'll work with small events like ball games and uptown events. And, I just served the police department in that capacity and kind of live in the foothills of the mountains. If you heard of Appalachian State University?
Yeah.
I live at the foothills of that, right at the bottom as you start up to go to that, go up the mountain. And I was born and raised in Lenoir. I have several siblings, and we all live in Lenoir. I have one sister that lives in Winston-Salem, and then also I have 2 kids. I have a son. Well, 3 sons that live here, that live in Lenoir, and then my daughter. She lives in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She works at the hospital. And basically, that's about my family. Oh, I'm sorry. If my wife was standing right here, she would. So yes, I'm married to Sarah. We've been married for a couple of years now, and she works in daycare. She works with children. She's mostly been in daycare for her life, and we were empty empty nesters, and then we had the opportunity to take in her nieces and nephew. So we went from 0 kids to 3 kids, ages 10. I'm sorry, just turned 11, 11, 9, and 8.
Okay.
So starting over again.
Now you got your hands full.
So that's basically about me, my
Yeah.
family.
Cool. Like I mentioned, so you're the lead pastor of West and MB Church there in Lenoir. So tell me about that. How long have you been there and how did you get into that role?
Well, I've been there this December be 4 years. And when I got there, Pastor Hunt was the chaplain at the police department.
Okay.
So he introduced me to the MB family. And, he kind of talked to me and, he knew my background where I went to Liberty, got my degree from Liberty University.
Mm-hmm.
And he began to talk to me and, he did a few ride-alongs with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, we would talk about different things. So he said, won't you come join up with us, start coming. So I started going to West End once there. Pastor Larry Smith was the pastor at that time, and he stepped down due because he was getting married, and he was going to move on to Greensboro. So that's how I wound up being pastor at West End.
Awesome. Very cool. So I'm sorry, what year was that? When did that happen?
Becoming pastor at West End happened in 2021.
Okay.
Happened in 2021. I was already going there. So
Awesome. So then you retired from the police force the year after that. Is that right?
correct.
Cool. So I'm always kind of curious talking to police officers. I know specifically from the MB family. Were you introduced to the MBs before this? Because I know the MBs kind of have this history of, peace and reconciliation. And so I know sometimes the police officers aren't really sure what to do with that. So did you wrestle with that at all when Terry Hunt was kind of bringing you in, or what was that like for you?
Well, yes, actually, I never heard of the Mennonites. It's a kind of funny story because where I'm pastoring at, I grew up just right down the street from
Okay.
there. And, I would pull in the parking lot, I'd say, I ain't never come to this church.
Okay.
And, it's just funny the way, we started talking and, I was in another denomination, and it's easy to pass judgment when you really don't know nothing about the organization. And as he began to talk to me, I began to wrestle with it. So one day I just told him, I said, let's do that. I'll start attending. And like I said, I started attending West End, and it's been a journey since.
Yeah. So you took over as district minister in 2022. No, 2022. I'm gonna get all these dates confused. Sorry, 23.
Yes,
Right?
last year.
October of 2023. Okay.
Yes,
You're doing both of the roles now, right? So you're district minister and lead pastor.
yes, sir. Doing both roles. It's challenging sometimes, because you gotta handle local conflict, then you gotta handle conflict in the district.
Yeah.
So it can be a journey.
Yes. I'm sure that's a lot. That's a big workload. I'm sure you have your hands full with a lot of different things. So we've talked to, I think, all the other district ministers. So I'm glad we can have a chance to have you on. And I think everybody in that position has a kind of a slightly different take on the position and what all that entails. So in your words, how do you describe what is a district minister?
Well, as a district minister, the denominations that I came from, I kind of knew what it was like, because what they were kind of like overseers. They would go check on other churches, and then when this opportunity came, I took it as the same role as it is. Checking on the other churches in the districts, and getting to meet the pastors, and just seeing what their needs are, and see what you can do to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. So since you started, I'm just kind of curious. I'm sure you travel around quite a bit to talk to other pastors. What has that been like for you? I'm sure you're meeting some people you probably didn't know before. What's that been like for you as you're getting to know the other MB leaders in your area?
It's a challenge. And the reason I say it's a challenge because you don't get to see them every day, and you don't, you know, you tend to forget names and tend to forget where you're going. But it's been a challenge, and I'm learning greater bit because I'm getting to meet a lot of different people, especially with our Congolese churches. It's been a challenging, but it's kind of, to me, been rewarding because I get to go meet with them and talk with them and see what their needs are. Like I said, I haven't really been doing this long. I
Mhm.
think I've been in more meetings than I
Yeah.
have doing visitations.
Yeah. Yep. I believe that. We like meetings, don't we? Well, I mentioned that you're kind of splitting this role with Pastor Darren. So how does that work? Do you guys have specific things that you're responsible for that he's responsible for, or do you split it up geographically, or how are you guys splitting the role?
Well, when we first decided that we were going to split it, I was going to handle the traveling part of it, attend all the meetings. I was going to take care of that part of it, and he was going to kind of work at the local part of it as writing the new bylaws. We're changing our bylaws and changing some things. He was going to work on that portion of it, and I think that's what his role is still going to be, as far as he's took on a new principal's role. So I don't know how much he's going to be able to be involved now.
Okay, gotcha. So as you mentioned earlier that you're already traveling around talking to pastors, I'm just curious as you're doing that, what are you hearing from our pastors and leaders? What are some of the things that are kind of common as you're meeting people? Are there kind of similar pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses, or what are you learning as you're talking to the pastors?
Whereas I talk to the Congolese pastors, their biggest concern is trying to get adjusted to being in the U.S. and looking for a church buildings and how to get their younger generations of people to start coming and being more part of their culture. Because the older ones, they still like to talk their native language, but the younger generation is learning to speak more English.
Yeah.
So they're dealing with that, and just like we're dealing with our local churches around here, is getting young folks to come.
Hmm.
It seems like young folks is not as interested as being part of the church these days.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious, what do you say when pastors bring that up? What do you say? You're just kind of working through it together because I'm sure, like you said, a lot of churches are having that same problem. So what kinds of discussions are you having about that?
Well, we try to figure out what can we do to get the youngest folks' attention, so they will come, and what directions can we lean in, and just basically just trying to talk and see what we can kind of do different.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
my my intake on is, even though young people are have their different takes in, you still gotta base everything on the word of God. They have to understand that whenever you take on the role as a Christian, that you got to be separated, and you can't compromise with what the world is trying to offer. For you can't bring the world into the church, because the church need to be going to the world.
Mm.
They don't need to influence us. We need to be influencing them.
Hmm.
So that's one of the hardest things that we're having to try to get young people to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. And like you said, I think every church is facing that. So as soon as you figure that out, let the rest of us know, because I think we're on a similar path there. But One thing that's interesting about your district, the Eastern District, it used to be called, until recently, it's just called the North Carolina District, because that's, for a while, North Carolina was the only state that had MB churches. But I know it's grown a lot in recent years, partially because of all the immigrant churches. So can you remind us, like, what all states do you technically oversee, and just kind of give us a reminder of what kind of churches you're working with?
Our district runs all the way from Portland, Maine to Stony Mountain, Georgia, and we include like Tennessee, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So it's quite big.
Yeah. It's a lot of ground to cover. And I get the impression that a lot of those churches are pretty diverse, right? I think, unfortunately, a lot of our churches, maybe in the southern or central districts, are kind of not nearly as diverse as what you're seeing. So there are the immigrant churches. Can you just talk about the diversity a little bit and what all the churches look like, and maybe some of the things that you see that are coming out from that diversity?
Well, I haven't got to visit maybe one or two churches, but as if you talk about diversity, we are very diverse in the Eastern District, and by us being diverse, I think it just works out better. It works out better, and it helps us to understand how things could work and look like.
That's cool. One thing that I've been really encouraged with all the immigrant churches, especially, is I think a lot of times we work, whenever there's something kind of new, whenever we incorporate new people like an immigrant church, I think one of the strengths of being in a denomination is we're able to work together, to pool our resources, get leaders together to help each other. So are you seeing that at all in your areas? Or maybe if not, what are some ways that we can do that better? Does that make sense?
Right. Well, the way I've seen things work is, our churches that's not, like with the Congolese, we work to help them to try to get settled in. Say for instance, if they need clothing, we come together and we get clothing and send to them. I know Pastor Hunt, he's worked hard and gave one of the immigrant churches a van.
Mm-hmm.
We try to we try, by us being diverse and being in this country, we try to help them with their needs. I think we work hard, and I think we work good about trying to see that they need what their needs are.
Yeah, that's good. And we've talked about this before on the podcast before, so about my memory is not great. So I know you mentioned, obviously, you got the van for that one immigrant church, and there's always, of course, churches are always in need of money and maybe some resources like clothes or whatever, like other things similar to that. But what else, as you're talking to the pastors and leaders, what else are some of their kind of biggest needs right now? Whether it's like a physical thing like money or clothes, or encouragement or training, or what are some of the biggest needs that you're seeing?
Yes, some of the biggest needs is we train and try to teach them try to teach our immigrant churches how to be self-sustained. We give them workshops, and we give them encouragement, encourages them, like you said, and it's just different things that we do to try to get them where they can self-sustain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. I'm sure that could be a long journey for some of those churches. So it's good that we have someone in your position to help them with that. That's important. So now, you mentioned earlier that I think you said Darren was going to be kind of involved with some of the bylaws and some of the things like that. Because I know, being a district minister, you're also involved with quite a bit of kind of district level USMB projects and things like that as well. So do you know, are you involved with those as well? Or what is your kind of USMB national level involvement?
Well, I started attending to some of the like Board and Faith Life meetings, and I'm just now kind of still trying to get the feel of exactly what involvement that I have. And from what I can from the meetings that I have sat in, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm still taking in a whole lot.
yeah. I mean, I think your voice is going to be really important. I love, we're in a season where we have kind of a lot of new leaders and especially in national leadership. And I think there's some challenges that come with that, but I think it's also great to get new perspective and new voices. So I'm glad to have you on board with some of those things. I think that's going to be great to have you there. So I can tell already you've mentioned like you're traveling a lot, being a lead pastor is a huge job by itself, let alone also being a district minister. So I'm just curious how, as you're kind of settling into this, how are you doing with like balance and keeping your family prioritized and making sure you don't run yourself ragged? Is that a challenge for you, or how are you handling that so far?
Well, it's a challenge. I mean, luckily, when we travel, we don't have to stay gone that long. And before I travel or do anything, make sure everything's taken care at home, and
Mhm.
during the time, during your quality time at home. And it's a challenge. And making sure you get your get your things done for the local church, for West End. Make sure, you get your Bible studies and stuff in. And it's just, I don't know, it just seems like it's something that it just falls in place. Everything's been falling in place, time, how, family time and travel time. So
Yeah, that's good, and it's hard. I think it's hard for all of us. So that's I'm sure you'll settle into a groove here. So one kind of cool thing about your story too is that you don't really have an MB, a Mennonite background. Like you kind of came to it later in life. So as you're getting settled, more and more settled here, and as you're becoming more and more established, what about MB world kind of attracted you? What do you like about it? What's maybe something that you've learned as you've kind of gotten more settled, or what does being a part of the MB family mean for you?
as the more I settle, and the more meetings that I have attended to, it shows that that the MBs work together, that they
Mm,
they work together, and they really try to set a family atmosphere. That they show that they really care, and not saying that other denominations don't have that,
hmm.
because they do, but I guess it's more of a feel like more of a personal touch.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's how it should be, right?
Oh yeah.
And so speaking of that, we've kind of hit on this already, that I mean, being a pastor is it's a hard job. It's a challenging job. And I think people don't really understand all the challenges that come along with it unless you've been in that position before. So whether it's you yourself or other pastors that you're talking with, if we have church attenders who aren't necessarily pastors right now, if they're just attending a church, what do you want them to know about being a pastor, and how can they be encouraging to people who are shepherding them? Do you have any words of wisdom for church attenders, how they can be helpful to their pastors?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
good.
Uh, Always keep your pastor lifted up in prayer. When I stepped into the lead pastor, I told the people, "You follow me as I follow Christ."
Mm,
Then, if you see me getting out of line, or if I start coming short, then that's when you go to God, and
mm,
then you come to me, and 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 say, "Hey, I disagree with you. I disagree with this, or I don't agree with it," because you know whenever you whenever your flock is falling in line with your vision and working with you, things just fall smooth. It just falls in place. And whenever they realize that the pastor is human too, he's going to have a bad day. So it's always important to keep him lifted up in your prayers.
yeah, and that's a good word. That's good. And our district ministers too, right? So you guys have a lot on your plates too.
Oh
So,
yeah.
well, I mentioned earlier, I don't really know a whole lot about West End. So can we spend a little bit of time talking about your church? Tell me, like, how do you describe West End to people? What kind of ministries do you offer? What does a Sunday morning look like? Walk us through what West End is doing these days.
Well, we still we still trying to, I don't want to say recover from the COVID. We
Hmm.
believe it or not, we have at least 15 churches within a mile.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We have some churches. There's 3 churches on one street, the next street, and then the next street.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay.
So it's trying to. I know it's enough of people out in the world to fill your churches, but it seems like when you have like a community churches like that, it's kind of hard to.
Hmm.
It's kind of hard to build up, but
Hmm.
that's when I say sheep. That's when your sheep need to go out and beget sheep,
Hmm.
and and it's the shepherd's job to keep them reeled in. We're in a small area, and like I said, we have at least 15 churches,
Mm.
different churches that's close.
Yeah, that's a lot of churches.
It is. We right now we have Wednesday night Bible study, and then we have our Sunday worship, and we still trying to build up so we can start our Sunday school back.
Hmm.
We've got some work to do, and I feel like with God's help, we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
The people that attend there, we we work pretty good. We work pretty close together, and we try to do what's right. And like I said, it's a small congregation right now, but I'm looking for God to move.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great, man. That's good. And I think it's interesting your background as a police officer, and especially since you still occasionally are involved with some police work. I think that's the kind of unique situation that you're in. And you mentioned that Pastor Terry Hunt was chaplain of the police force for a while. Has the involvement, because you don't always necessarily think of churches and the police officers working very closely together. I think that's kind of rare. Has that been true in your situation? Like, has there been any place where you're able to work together and serve the community together, or what kind of partnerships are there? Has that ever kind of worked to your advantage to have kind of a foot in both of those worlds?
It works both ways. It works both ways. The church, as pastor in church, we work with the community, with our community. We try to have different things, different functions for the community to attend to. But as for me, when you're on the different side of the law, people tend to kind of dislike you. And right now, it's kind of hard. Some people can't separate me as being a police officer from as being a pastor down.
Hmm.
As a police officer, you had to deal with people, and most of the time when you deal with people, you see them at their worst.
Hmm.
But being a pastor in that role, you have to you see the worst in them, but you have to look for the best in them.
Hmm. Hmm.
You try to witness to them a little bit while you handling the situation. So that was kind of unique for me, because when people were at their worst, you have a chance to tell them the goodness of God and what He's done, what he had done for you, and how He brought you out, and how whatever their situation is, that He can change it around for them.
Hmm.
So that was unique about being a pastor in that position.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That sounds like there's some really cool opportunities there for you to work with people. And man, I just have to tell you, man, I respect you so much, because if I had to try to guess the occupations that were the most difficult the past 4 years during COVID and the lockdowns and all the race riots and stuff, I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, I would say being a police officer and being a pastor, that has to be some of the hardest jobs all the time, but especially over the past few years. So do you mind sharing a little bit? What is, during all the kind of turbulence that we've been experiencing, what has that been like for you, both when we were kind of in the thick of it a few years ago and now? How has it changed?
As a police officer in my area, we are a kind of a small area. I think our population like around 17,000, and
Okay.
it may have grown a little bit. So we didn't have the major crimes,
Hmm.
but every now and then, I think where our department suffered at is if something when stuff happened in the bigger cities,
Yeah.
it kind of trickled down to what was going on with us, like the George Floyd and all and the things that happened like that.
Yeah.
It kind of trickled down to us. And as being pastor, you know, I was kind of able to kind of keep the peace a little bit, and try to help them to understand that our officers can't be punished for something that happened
Hmm.
that happened in another state or something.
Right.
And, even when they had their little protest, it was peaceful, and you know us as police officers, we had to be there. But the good thing about in our area, not only was Pastor Hunt and myself able to, you know, be there, but we had some of the other local pastors coming out and being with the protesters. And I
Hmm.
think that kind of helped ease tensions. And by the police department being community oriented, that kind of helped. So to be a pastor and a police officer is very unique. And
Hmm.
I've learned a lot from the both, and especially being a police officer for 28 and a half years. And what length of time I've been a pastor, you know, I think the two can walk hand in hand
Hmm.
if you utilize it right. The two can walk hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Just like to be a pastor, you have to be called and chosen. Police officers, that's a job that you have to be called and chosen to do. Because if
Hmm.
you're doing it for the money and the glory, then it just ain't gonna work.
Yep. That's definitely true. Well, as you transition back to your district minister position, I just want to, as we kind of start to wrap up here, you mentioned that all pastors, maybe especially district pastors, just need our prayer. So, what are some things that are top of your mind right now? What can we be praying for you and your church and your district right now?
Just prayer that we keep working together, and we keep letting the Lord lead us, and that I guess in our Congolese churches, a lot of them looking for buildings, and that
Mm.
they find their buildings, and that they can get settled more, and learn more of the customs here, and just keep lifting the district up in prayers, and pray for me as a district minister, and Darren, that that we really just call on God and let Him lead us,
Mm.
because you know I'm learning you can't lean to your own understanding.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. Well, kind of last question, we can start to wrap up here. And again, I know you're kind of early on, you're still kind of getting settled, but do you have any specific goals for your time as district minister, or do you have any specific projects that you're working on right now that you can share with us? Or what are some of what's kind of top of mind? Again, I'm just curious what you're working on and what we can be looking for down the road from the Eastern District.
Well, my goal as a district minister is to help help our churches to be self-sustained, and
Hmm.
you know help them train up more, and just more fellowship, more
Mm.
getting to know them, and just following this journey what God has for us.
Yeah.
And I guess that is could be my main goal, is that God elevate the district, and elevate the leaders.
Hmm. A big part of your role is just encouragement. So keep up what you're doing, man. It's an important job, and I'm really grateful to have you in that role. So, okay, before we close out, anything else you want to share, James, or did we hit everything you wanted to hit today?
I'm just glad that you had me on today. That's one of the things I guess I admire about Pastor Hunt. He's like where it's taking me a while. It's going to be some shoes to fulfill, and he's still mentoring me and trying to lead me on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thankful to be in this role and thankful that I'm getting to learn more about the Mennonite organization, and I'm just looking forward to growing and just being all God would have me to be, and just looking forward to the journey.
Well, that's awesome, man. We're so glad to have you on the team. Thanks for all your leadership and for your time today. Pastor, Officer, James Moore, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are you weary of the polarization and contention that characterize our cultural moment? Do you find yourself wondering how Christians should engage in politics? As we near the 2024 presidential election, feature articles in the September-October issue of the Christian Leader magazine focus on the Christian and politics. We look at how Mennonite brethren view politics, read a perspective on U.S. politics from someone living outside the U.S., hear thoughts from a state representative, and more. Request a print copy or view the content online at christianleadermag.com.
Once again, many thanks to Pastor James for joining us today, and I just am so grateful for the way that he serves his church. And again, like I said at the top, he's just one of the most authentic guys I've ever met, and if you've had a chance to talk with him, I'm sure that was one of your main takeaways as well. So, James, we wish you well in your ministry, my friend. Thank you for stepping up and serving in this way. And I hope the Lord continues to bless both your church at West End, as well as the many other churches that you oversee in your district. So thanks for serving well, James. And thanks so much to you for listening wherever you are today. I know for many of us, we're kind of in the back to school, kind of a busy time of year. So I hope things are going well for you and your churches. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time here on the next episode of Lead Pods.
Thanks for listening to Lead Pods. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to our show wherever you're listening today. Learn more by visiting usmb.org, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time as we learn more practical tools to increase our impact together.